Talofa lava, this is Pacific Waves from RNZ Pacific. I'm Elisha Foon. Coming up.
Awarotongan Passage is a notorious location for loss of lives.
Cook Islands Turtle Tour's safety regulations could be reviewed after the tragic death of a 50-year-old man who died in a Rarotongan lagoon. Also, Fiji's economy is showing strong growth ahead of the one-year mark of the coalition government. And later,
today's about getting together, putting some parcels and some packages together for our people, some of our people that are doing it tough at the moment.
Super Rugby's Moana Pasifika take on the role of Santa in South Auckland. The family of a man who died in Rarotonga's lagoon this week say they're shocked and shattered beyond repair. A statement from the victim's sister, Sarah Thorpe, says locals risked their own lives trying to save him, but the rip at Awarotongan Passage was too strong. Thorpe says her brother Tony died 3 days after celebrating her wedding in Rarotonga. She says he was someone who loved the water and whose final wish before leaving was to swim with turtles before flying home for Christmas. Cook Islands Tourism CEO Carla Eagleton spoke to Caleb Fotheringham about the need to review safety regulations to make passages safer for visitors.
Awarotongan Passage is a notorious location for loss of lives, and over many years we have seen tragedies in that passage.
What makes it so dangerous?
So Awarotongan Passage is an opening from the lagoon into the Pacific Ocean, and with that there are some strong undercurrents that can take you out of the lagoon and into the ocean, especially during high tides. And that has been a real critical issue with passages, not just in Awarotongan and Rarotonga, but across the Pacific.
And it's an incredibly popular place for people to swim, so they can swim with sea turtles. How popular of a tourist attraction is it?
Swimming with the turtles and seeing the turtles has become one of the top 3 tours and attractions for the Cook Islands by visitors. It is a very sought after and very popular.
So you've got this situation where you've got an incredibly popular place to swim with turtles, but it's also incredibly dangerous. How are you managing that in tourism?
For the last couple of years, we've really looked into visitor safety. It is absolutely a key priority for us that visitors and our hosts collectively are safe when visiting the turtles. We have in the last year alone spent a lot of time around building awareness with our visitors, making sure that we have signage to be able to ensure their safety, and working with our industry to ensure that the tours and the operations are the safest that it can be. And this is all with working toward creating guidelines and trying to educate our visitor what to expect when going in to visit and having a sea turtle experience.
Has an idea of a full-time lifeguard at Awarotongan Passage been considered?
There are a lot of things that are being considered right now. Awarotongan Passage and swimming with sea turtles is highly unregulated, and we need to lean in on what kind of guidelines and rules that we can put into the passage that is going to keep everybody safe. So some marine guidelines in ensuring that the sea turtles are safe, that our biodiversity remains sustainable and safe, and then our visitors need to be safe. So there are kind of three key elements to ensuring all of this takes place, and it needs to be regulated. At this time, that is not the case, and so we've been working towards it. The suggestion of putting a lifeguard at the area has obviously been mooted, along with a lot of other suggestions for solutions. It all comes down to working together and coming up with a solution that is sustainable. And at this time, Cook Islands Tourism is working with the National Environment Service and the Ministry of Marine Resources to come up with a robust solution that is going to help us in managing safety in that area.
So you mentioned a lifeguard was discussed. What other ideas have been thrown around when discussing these regulations?
What we can see at the moment when we've had our discussions with the sea turtle operators is just talking around what guidelines we need to be thinking about. We've talked about having rescue boats available to rescue customers in distress. We have talked about life-saving, having the people monitoring and being on guard while they are out in the passage. It is talking about prohibiting entry into the passage during high tides and when the weather and the water is unsuitable for visiting the turtles. So there have been a number of ways in which we have been looking at keeping people safe in the passage.
When do you expect these regulations to come into force?
So regulatory and legislative work takes a lot of time and a lot of resource. And so by our estimates, we're thinking 12 months at the earliest, 18 months most likely.
At the moment, it seems like the number one thing that I have seen happen with the passages is people being encouraged to actually go on a tour themselves. With any regulation framework that could come in place, let's say a lifeguard does come in or there's safety equipment on the side of the beach, do you think that could encourage people to go in by themselves instead of actually taking a tour?
Yes, there are a lot of gaps, and we need to do a risk assessment around all the considerations, and we're working through that as a collective also. We are looking at ways in which we can do the best that we can to provide a safe environment for the experiences, but we are going to have to continue with our risk assessment and figure out the best way forward.
Fiji's Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, Biman Prasad, says the country's economy is outperforming pre-pandemic levels. Approaching the one-year anniversary of the coalition government, Mr Prasad says there is confidence and a sense of freedom in the country that is driving growth. Karoi Hawkins spoke with Biman Prasad in Suva.
Well, things have gone very well. As far as the economy is concerned, there is a sense of confidence, there is a sense of freedom, and in fact, those two important elements is propelling the economy in a much better way than we expected. We started with a growth rate of less than 7%. We revised it to 8%, and just recently we've revised it further upwards to 8.2%. Our tourism industry has recovered more than the pre-COVID level. So compared to 2019, we have gone 4% more than 2019. So it's not just recovering from the COVID, but also pre-COVID measures, and what we're seeing now, for any economy, a sense of confidence, a sense of freedom is very important. And the coalition government has provided that. We have started very well with our budget, where we have put out a budget which addresses three important things. One, consolidates our fiscal position, our finances. We reduced the deficit from an average of about 9% over several years to about 4.8%. We reformed the taxation system together with a number of policy reforms, but also we made sure that the additional revenue that is going to come to us from the reforms is being diverted to key sectors of the economy, such as social welfare, where we increased the budget substantially. We increased the budget for the health ministry by about $58 million. We've made sure that we address some of the fledgling, resource sectors, such as the agriculture, sugar industry, where we have allocated additional funding. So in some ways, what we've done is put out a policy framework, a medium-term strategy to address the fiscal side of the economy. We were obviously landed with a huge debt. We've now set up a strategy plan to reduce our deficit, our debt levels over a period of time. However, having said that, we have some major challenges, particularly in the labour market. We've lost a large number of people to Australia and New Zealand, and we are happy to provide labour to Australia and New Zealand. And we feel that that is having some impact, but we are addressing those issues. In fact, sometimes we were thinking that it might be a good problem to have, in the sense that we are forced to train more people. There's been a rise in salaries and wages in the formal sector. More new jobs have been created, and we are reforming a number of policy areas. And we are really grateful to Australia and New Zealand, not only for the support that they provided during COVID, but also the continuing support through budget support, which allows us to reform policies which is going to further aid to our growth potential in the economy.
The coalition partnership has had ups and downs over the past year. How is the relationship at the moment?
I think it's the media that's talking about ups and downs. We've been a very united government. Coalition governments have their challenges, but we are a three-party coalition government, and all the leaders of the coalition, including the Prime Minister, which is the leader of the largest party in the government, we are determined. We are united. We were united before the election. We were united in the ideas and the ideals. We wanted to restore freedom. We wanted to restore democracy. We wanted to restore the relationship with our traditional partners.
But it was very tight split with Sudelpa. I was here for that vote.
That was before the government was formed. If you want to know what has happened after the government was formed, that's what I'm saying.
One of the criticisms of Rambuka's leadership has been talking about being very pro-Indigenous, very pro-Christian as well for a secular nation. And then some of the critics, for you personally, as the only, what do you think of the criticisms of how much have you stood up for the Indo-Fijian community in Fiji?
There's a whole lot of crap by people who are disappointed, who probably are not part of the government anymore. It's a lies and mischief. The Honourable Prime Minister, if you look at his history with working with the National Federation Party, where our late leader Justice Jairam Reddy and Mr. Sitiveni Rambuka worked together to provide a constitution as opposed to the racist 1990 constitution, and I can tell you that that's a whole load of nonsense. This government is united in its pursuit of the principle of inclusivity, unity. The fact that people might be appointed here, people might be appointed there with different ethnic backgrounds does not suggest for a moment, when we provide increase in social welfare allowances, when we give $200 to 223,000 students, we don't discriminate. When we wrote off $650 million of student debt, 53,000 families, there is no discrimination between who is Indo-Fijian or who is Itoke. When we provided $8 million additional top-up price for sugarcane farmers, where 80% of the farmers are Indo-Fijians, what does that mean? That means that this is a government that is determined, a government that is focused on improving the quality of life of our people. We inherited one of the worst health services ever in the history of this country. And in the last budget, we increased the budget by about $58 million. We are addressing some of the fundamental flaws that we inherited, not only in terms of the economy, but in terms of the systems, in terms of the processes that were there. So I think the people have to be a little bit more patient. In 1 year, we have achieved so much. People don't realize how much things have changed in 1 year.
Final note from me.
The freedom that people now have, people like yourselves, you would have never imagined.
Comment on Fiji First, and the resignations and all of that that's happening. Any comment on that side?
Well, I'm not surprised, but the fact that the General Secretary, and I wish him well in his recovery, the fact that we have started our term in government by removing all the restrictions, by giving the freedom, by allowing people to practice genuine democracy, that's the main thing.
Super Rugby's Moana Pasifika have taken on the role of Santa, delivering gifts to 20 Pasifika families in Central and South Auckland. Moana Pasifika work alongside charities and health providers across New Zealand and are role models to disadvantaged youth. The mission as part of an outreach program is to cheer up communities doing it tough this Christmas. Fino Fonua spoke to the players as they prepared to deliver gifts to those most in need.
In the South Auckland suburb of Otohuhu, Tongan brass music permeates the premises of a storage building. It's the Dubois College Alumni Band playing a Christmas tune for the players of Moana Pasifika as they wrap Christmas presents. The team has shown up to personally pack and deliver gifts of chocolate, food, drink and toys to 20 disadvantaged Pasifika families in South and Central Auckland. Moana Pasifika captain Sekope Kepu says the Christmas mission is part of the club's outreach program.
Today is about getting together, putting some parcels and some packages together for our people, some of our people that are doing it tough at the moment, and just sort of reaching out, going out to their families and seeing them and hopefully put a smile on their faces.
It was organised by the Whānau, a Pasifika-focused health and welfare provider. Whānau workers previously delivered goods before Moana Pasifika reached out asking how the team could help out. Moana Pasifika Vice Captain Era Inari says it's an opportunity for Moana Pasifika players to step into the shoes of frontline workers, addressing the challenges faced by Pasifika.
I think we're all excited to see how the whānau works, what kind of packages we can put together, and then also to go see our families delivering to their homes. It'll be a good experience, and also hopefully motivate us to do it a bit more often in our time that we get.
Christmas can be tough on some Pacific families. Pasifika earn $8,000 less than the overall New Zealand population, according to Stats New Zealand. Whānau Communications Manager Frank Goloi says the rugby stars who rise above this are viewed as role models.
The players are playing a huge role in it. And remember, these are young people too. These players are young people as well, with not as much experience in terms of thinking about their long-term career and their prospects and having their own family. So when they go out and talk to the community and hear the same problems that the community are facing, they share their experiences.
Kepu says from his experience, Pasifika families that struggle to meet ends often shy away from seeking help, such as approaching welfare services. He says part of the Christmas outreach is to speak to families and to provide reassurance.
Speaking for myself, when we do struggle, it's hard. You sort of tend to be shy to reach out because you don't want to be seen as you're struggling. You don't want to be seen that you're doing it tough, and it's okay. Everyone understands and the situation, what we're going through, what we've just come through, the COVID and everything. Being embarrassed, it's scared of being judged from our fellow community.
Santa's Little Helpers, the Super Rugby's Moana Pasifika team, hope this act of generosity uplifts and empowers communities this Christmas.
That's Pacific Waves for today. To listen back, head over to rnzi.com/programs. We're also on Apple, Spotify and iHeartRadio podcasts. From myself and the RNZ Pacific team, tō whā soifua.